they are less prone to absorb the telepathic onslaught of negative belief systems from the rest of society. They simply won't participate in those beliefs.
So that's why they are in part your greatest teachers, because they're already ahead of the game in some ways.
You're actually seeing children who will have a different attitude than any children have had before. That is understandable in an evolved species. You are asking whether you, as an older human being, can change, and the answer is absolutely and yes, for you could become childlike.
The wisest you have ever been as human beings is when you were little children. They are just so uninhibited and joyful, and they live in the present moment with joy. They're not thinking about what's going to happen 10 years from now or even 10 minutes from now. They're living in the present moment with joy, and that is the key. You should all be like little children again. That's the best advice we could ever give to anybody.
There's a new wave of channeling that's starting to reemerge with the advent of the public awareness of quantum physics. Not that everyone's a quantum physicist, but that has opened people up to realizing that consciousness is so far beyond us, and we can align with non-physical consciousness.
I receive these blocks of energy, and I can receive a block in half a second, and it'll take me 15, 20, 30 minutes to put it into words.
I have found over the years it gets clearer and clearer. There was a time when my channeling, the kind of channeling I do, was very different. I used to get information, wait, and regurgitate it. Now it's real time, and I feel it in real time in a trance-like state.
The human brain operates on a certain frequency rate, and in channeling, in the altered state, it changes frequency rates. And it becomes something that might be closer in frequency to their reality, which might exist on a higher level. At the same time, he's kind of doing the same thing, altering his frequency, his brain frequency, so that somewhere in the middle, the frequencies sort of meet and lock and become synchronized. And so what you're kind of getting in a channeling, as I understand it, is he's not really speaking a language. He's just sending thoughts. It's getting translated through my body into the language I was raised to understand, which in this case is English.
The changes in my life have been such an astonishing difference between who I used to be, my personality. Let me tell you, I didn't used to like groups. I didn't like people. I chose to be an engineer in a sound booth, so I would not have to deal with people. It's a good call. I can push a button and hear them or not, and then release it or hear them or not. I had full control over my social life. I liked one person at a time, usually a woman. And so that would be my life. I was not a well-read. I was not an orator. I wasn't an in front of the camera guy. No, it isn't me. I know that it isn't me. And I am doing my best to be a purest vessel as I can for what it is.
It's the most comfortable thing I've ever done in my life. Now that I've gotten used to it. It took me about 10 years to get used to it. Right. But it's my life's work.
There was a misunderstanding about the law of attraction. The human, the limited human, uses it like this. I want a new car. And they expect it to come to them. Well, it will, but it will probably hit them and send them flying. The limited human says, I need $1,000. I have to be able to pay my rent. Where it is becoming distorted right now is that it is turning into a mental exercise. Somebody out there wants to write a book, hundreds of pages, outlining it. And then the moment the human starts to read that book, they go mental, and then it shuts down, you see. The mind can only go so far. The law of attraction is your spirit, your soul. It is the deepest parts of you. It's not what the brain can conjure up.
We understand that money is one of the symbols of abundance on your planet, and that's all well and good. You can have as much money as you want. But the idea really is, is to relax the definition that it has to come that way, because then you open the doors through which abundance could come in all the other forms in which abundance could come to simply allow you to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Sometimes that can actually just be being gifted something. That's still a form of abundance when someone gives you a gift, because you're creating a reality that has an open door to accept the idea that you can be given something effortlessly without having to go through any specific machinations to make it happen.
Society will tell you that you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to achieve a particular result, and we'll tell you that's not true. What has to be is that your vibrational state has to be in alignment.
The idea is to also examine the belief systems where you might be resistance to the idea of abundance, because many of you have belief systems unconsciously that actually keep the idea of the experience of abundance at bay.
The person is conditioned for some degree of abundance or non-abundance, depending on the pre-existing conditions with the parents growing up. And so conditioning is the first place to look.
For example, you are raised on your planet with all sorts of contradictory and conflicting belief systems about money, such as love of money is the root of all evil. You will never be a success unless you have a lot of money. How do you allow those two things to coexist side by side without being confused?
Because the conditioning will determine what the belief systems are and what the subconscious is holding on to. And if there's limitations there, then you want to heal whatever that misconception is, because all humans are deserving, innately, inherently deserving. It's just a matter of recognizing it, owning it, understanding it, and believing it.
Many people who believe, well, I will never be successful if I don't have a lot of money, but also believe that I will become a greedy person, a bad person, if I only get a lot of money, may never allow themselves to become physically wealthy, because it is more important to them to be a good person than to be a bad one. So if they associate the idea of being a bad person with having a lot of money, then that's a belief they need to look at, because they don't have to have that association. The idea is not that you have to become more abundant than you are. The idea is to get in touch with what you are saying you are abundant in. And if you're abundant on lack, you will experience an abundance of lack.
You have a conflict going on now between the limited human and the souled being. The soul doesn't really necessarily care about all of the human whinings. None of it matters. It doesn't matter if you didn't pay your rent. It doesn't matter if you were a multimillionaire. None of it matters. Those are things of concern to the human aspect only. What the soul cares about, what your spirit cares about, is consciousness, which means awareness. Your soul and your spirit cares about the joy of being. The joy of being, in other words, experiencing what is in front of you to experience.
We will tell you thought creates form, all right, but your emotional state's vibrated into being. So whatever you are putting out emotionally, you're going to get back energetically. And because the physical reality is reflecting the emotional, if there are lower frequencies that you are putting out, then what you're getting back in the physical realm are the lower frequencies.
The soul would rather have a bad experience for you than no experience at all. You see, those humans who try to run from experiencing things and doing things and creating things, they're really frustrating their own soul.
Whatever vibration you give off, whatever frequency you create or generate, determines utterly and absolutely whatever experience is reflected back to you from your reality, because physical reality really does not empirically exist apart from your definition of it. Even your own quantum physicists are beginning to discover this. So physical reality is likened to a mirror.
It's not going to say, well, Johnny's been a good boy today, so we're going to reward him, or Susie's been a bad girl today, so we're going to punish her. It's very impersonal. It has nothing to do with the traditional concepts of a punishing or judgmental God.